It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. This is the first episode of the year of Frontline Friday with my very special and regular guest, Bridget Gleason. Bridget, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Maybe a little belated, but Happy New Year.
That's right. A little belated, but still our first episode of the new year.
Yes. And gosh, it's going to be such a good year. I can't wait.
What are you excited about this year?
Oh, the same thing I'm excited about every year. Life is an adventure. And
yeah, that's true.
I don't want to say it's more so as you get older. It's just, but the fact that we are fortunate enough to live in a society that we have, the ability to be so creative, right? We have the freedom to be creative and do our own thing, and it's encouraged. And I think at the number of times I sort of have reinvented myself during my career, starting off as a history major, and have spent 25 years selling extremely technical technology products to serving thousands of sales professionals and sales managers and so on as we do with this podcast and other things I do. It's incredible. So I'm always excited to see what's going to come, what's around the corner.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. I have goals. I know what I want to achieve, but the means to achieve them and the path is never as straightforward as you want it to be, or not as you want it to be, as you plan it to be. And I'm someone that I sort of like the ambiguity.
Well, we might as well embrace it because there is no certainty, So I think that's a good strategy for happiness is to embrace it, embrace the ambiguity.
Yeah. I harken back to this lecture I heard from this professor. Again, I know we've mentioned this, but it's worth repeating. This was years ago at a sales kickoff meeting with a company I just joined. I joined right at the first of the year, and they went to an offsite meeting down in the Carmel area in California. And a professor named Barry Posner from Santa Clara University talked about what he considered sort of the key tool, if you will, for success in the world we live in. At this time, as before, as even as crazy as it is now, was what he called TOFA, T-O-F-A, which was tolerance of ambiguity. And that always stuck with me as it just struck me as being extremely rational when you look at the world around you, but really necessary if you're going to work certainly in certain industries where at that time is a lot of uncertainty around the tech business, not like there is today, where now we have uncertainty even in big companies, right? Back when you and I got started work, big companies were considered the solid places to work, but now it seems like no place you work offers you that same stability that might have existed before. So you have to embrace this ambiguity because it'll kill you if you don't.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I think it's a good strategy for happiness. It's to embrace it. I like that, this TOFA, tolerance of ambiguity. I hadn't heard that before. Yeah, or if I had, I don't remember, which is also likely.
Yeah.
Tolerance of forgetfulness.
What'd you say?
Tolerance of forgetfulness.
That was my joke. Okay. So
a little slow this new year.
You're still suffering the effects of your New Year's celebration.
I know. That's right. Me, the big party girl.
Yeah. But I'm sure you still got out and did your run on New Year's morning, if you will. Yes. Of
course, I'm a creature of habit.
And
discipline. Habit and discipline, the two.
Right. And that's, I think, is good watchword for heading into this new year is, I think the temptation is to say, hey, we've already sort of had an episode about sales planning. So we can sort of skip that because people are probably being inundated with requests for sales plans from their managers. But I think it's important at this time is, with the last episode, we talked about looking back and reflecting on both a personal and professional level. But now I think looking forward is you also have to sort of look at a level beneath quota in your plan and beneath the activities and think about where do you want to be at the end of 2017? Where do you want to be? And I don't mean, I went 105% of quota or, I made $200,000, but, where do you want to be personally? Where do you want to be professionally? Because you can't look at these two in isolation. As you're putting together your plan for the year is, you really have to look at this from a sort of holistic standpoint of your work and your life together, your personal life together. Because they're melded and integrated in ways that we'd never even contemplated just even a few years ago. So
have you done that sort of thought experiment? Have you done that for your own self? What you think about that you want for this year, personally and professionally? Yeah,
I don't know that I'm completely finished yet. I would like to have had it and say it's locked in concrete, but I'm never sure it completely is. But yeah, I've identified certain things that, from let's say a habit standpoint, that in terms of productivity, Jill Conrath just published a great new book about more sales, less time, which is really about personal productivity, I think, more than anything. That is a great read because it reinforces this idea that you use the term discipline. I'll call it habit. That there are small habits, tiny habits, that can have such huge ramifications throughout everything you do. That really sort of focusing on some of these that I think can have an impact on our ability to achieve certain targets that I want to achieve, let's say. So yeah, sort of looking at that, and then you have to sort of, I think, identify one or two. You don't want to identify 10 or 15. Is what are those one or two? So one of the things I'm working on is let's say this whole idea of time blocking or in my day, and working more in sprints. And talked about with Jill when she was on the show recently. Is sort of there's just tools that exist now to help you sort of work in sprints, like a Pomodoro timer and so on, that I think are valuable. And so getting more in the habit of using them and sticking to it, I'm seeing differences in terms of how I'm getting things done, and getting them done perhaps in different ways than I might have before. And I think it'll have a pretty significant impact as I continue to do that throughout the year in terms of what I'm able to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, another thing too, I think that I'm working on. Again, I can't say that I'm finished. Is sort of harkening back to when you do the plan. I think even when you're doing your business plan, your sales plan is, people read Simon Sinek's book about defining your why. And I think that's something, again, that people maybe do once, but they need to revisit. Or if they haven't done it, they need to read the book. And what is the driving passion behind what you're doing? And really understanding what that is. It can't just be making money. It could be something as, gosh, I want to provide for my family so we can move to a bigger house or send our kids to better schools or something. But what is that? What is that why?
Yeah, I think it is important to go deeper than the surface of what we may identify as a goal, or like you said, making money. Making money for why? Back to Sinek's book, why? Why is that important? And I think as I sort of look forward and looking at the things that I want to accomplish for the year, I find that my goals also, they tend to be, I don't want to say more personal in nature, but and it's not even that they're less concrete, but they're not, I want to make a lot of money, or they're not, I want to move up and get a CEO job, or they're not, I guess I found, and maybe this, God, I hate to say this is, we get back to that old age thing, is that I find the things that are the most meaningful to me and the most impactful are not those things. I'm still very ambitious. I still, those things all hold true. So it doesn't change that at all. It's maybe a bit more nuanced around why I might want a different role. And for me, I love to be challenged. I don't like to be bored. And so for me to be an environment that's challenging for me, where I'm learning and I'm a little bit on the edge, I find that I just enjoy the day-to-day a lot more. And so the reason for me to want to maybe advance or to be in a more challenging position is because I like it. I just enjoy it. I like the learning. I realize that for me, learning, and I'm very curious, and so I need to satisfy that. And so as I've looked deeper, it's also changed and shifted a bit, kind of my priorities and how I think about them and my goals, as I understand a little bit more of the motivation that's underneath them.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily age related. Where I think the perception of the rewards changed a little bit from perhaps being more material to less material. Because I look at my own situation as I came up through my career and was setting my goals, is I was very rarely purely money motivated. I mean, to me, it was about the challenge. And part of that, I think that maybe I always felt, as someone that's a non-technical background, working in very technical industries, that challenge was sort of inherent in that. But I wanted to prove myself. But that's really what drove me. And I found that by really focusing on the challenge, that I've been more than amply rewarded throughout my career.
Yeah, you and I are talking about this, that we're not purely money motivated. We like the challenge. And it's interesting, though, in sales is you hear a lot about salespeople are coin operated. It's all about the money. And I do know people who really optimize on the money. And that, at least that's what they say. They don't talk much about the challenge. And there are probably individuals and maybe even times in a person's career when they do optimize on money, but it's typically for another reason. I'm going to optimize on money because I'm making a lot of money because I am saving to buy a house, or I want to put some for retirement, whatever it is that they may. So it really is just serving. It's serving another goal typically.
Yeah, and the question really is when you think about what's your why, what are your goals, what are your passions, is being money motivated the most effective motivation to get you to the end point where you want to be, where you want to achieve those goals? That's an open-ended question, but I mean, it's one worth thinking about. It's because we're at the beginning of the year. People have been charged up now, but they've gone to national sales meetings or local sales meetings, and they're charged up by the management to go out and do what they need to do, which is fine. You need to be, but what's getting you up every morning?
Well, and that's right, and that's a good thing to think about. I know for me, if I were to answer that question, I think, thinking about it again, going forward and putting goals forward, there's a couple of things. One is the challenge. Another for me is connection, is being connected to people and a team and being part of a group. those are all really motivating to me. Achieving is really motivating to me. And I think one of the things is understanding what motivates us. What are things that motivate? What makes me tick? And when I understand those, I'm able to better identify goals that are going to make me happy, as opposed to ones that aren't going to serve me well in the long term.
Well, I think that's always a difficult challenge, isn't it? Is to be able to weed out, the essential from the inessential.
Yeah, I think it's very hard.
And so, in your world, sort of in your life, how do you do that? Because it's a continuous struggle for me. I have to admit, on a somewhat daily basis, thanks to books by guys like Kevin Kruse and others who have written about focusing on the essential and focusing on the one thing. It's like you gotta keep reminding yourself. At least I find myself. What's important? What do I not need to be doing? I've gotten, I think about a year ago at this time, before I'd started reading some books on this. Again, I recommend this book by Kevin Kruse about time management, personal management, I had these huge to-do lists. And, it was a frustrating thing to not get through the to-do list. And, he just had to, repeat it. I have to focus on the one thing. What's the one thing, that you're trying to get done? And everything else is in service of that. And suddenly it's a whole different way of looking at things. And I haven't done a to-do list in over a year.
You haven't?
No.
Do you have a task list of things like to remember to do certain things?
Some, but it's mostly, if it needs to be done, it gets in your calendar. And I know what my, strategic priorities are and have those listed. But, if the things that are in my calendar, aren't either for that or in support of this podcast, I've just let things go and it's been fine.
I think that's brilliant.
Well,
I don't know that I can do it, but I think that's, that's an interesting way to think about it. I think I mentioned it in the last podcast, this book that I had read, Ego is the Enemy. Mm-hmm. One of the things this writer talked about when he journals every day, one of the things he keeps track of is how much time he spends in, what do you call it? Deep work or deep thinking, and how we spend way too much time doing and not enough time in like deep work, mm-hmm. deep, whatever. And so he's this particular author, Ryan Holiday. He's an author now, but he was also running or an executive at American Apparel. And so he's also a business guy. But I think it's still that notion of what are the most important things to get done. And I know for me too, is I think about the beginning of the day, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things that I need to do today? Everything else is going to be in service. There's a lot of other stuff that I'm going to end up doing, tasks. Mm-hmm. But what are the most important things? What do I need to really focus on? What are those few things? And that's really helped at this company where I'm working now, logs.io. We had an executive offsite. And I love that our executive offsite was at the Sea of Galilee. Okay? I love that.
Yeah, everyday event, yes.
It just, right. For them, it's an everyday event. It's like driving to Napa if you're in California. And one of the things that we did when I was at Yesware on the executive team is each of the executives had one number, one priority, one thing they were focused on that we reported on every week. And for the VP of sales, that's easy. Like my one number, I don't have to think hard about that. I know what my one number is. For some of the other departments, it was more challenging. But and we did that up at at this offsite is all of us talking about what is the one thing that we are going to be in service to. What is this one goal, this one priority?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really worthwhile, definitely worthwhile to do from a business perspective. And I also think personally, as you're thinking about what are really your priorities and what are the things that you can afford to let go of.
Yeah, and it really focuses you on a goal. I mean, I remember reading in Chris Brogan's book, The Impact Equation, which is a great book people should read. And
Andy, nobody will listen to us anymore because we talk about all these.
They don't have time to read.
No, they don't have time. They're not going to have time to read. They're going to say, "Well, I don't have time to listen to the podcast because I've got 18 books that Andy and Bridget have recommended in the last 3 weeks."
Yeah, and we're not done. We've got an episode coming up on books in the next couple weeks. But I remember he recounts the story of asking Gary Vaynerchuk, what his long-term goal is. That everything plays into the goal, and I just love the answer Vaynerchuk said was buy the New York Jets. So, everything he's doing is in service of being able to buy the New York Jets football team.
Hilarious.
But the way he just, instantly rolled that.
Yeah, that just he knew. That's great. I love that.
So I've been thinking about that. It's like, okay, what's my New York Jets? Right? I mean, what's the thing? It's not buying a professional football franchise, but I don't think I've quite. I mean, I'm working on it. I've been working on it very diligently, but it's like you just have to. I think to reach that goal, it's actually like, or to reach defining the goal. I feel like I'm actually doing what I did before, is throwing things out, right, clearing the path, because it's. I think I know what it is at one level. I just haven't really defined it that concisely.
I think about this one quite a bit, and I think I know what mine is. I wasn't even going to say I think I know what mine is. I know what my one. I know what my North Star is.
Can you share?
And my North Star, my North Star is enjoying the moment, enjoying the day-to-day, enjoying the challenge, and again having this different relationship, particularly around work. And we talked about this last time, the stress that is naturally accompanies a lot of jobs, certainly the VP of sales job. And I thought about this very deliberately when I was looking for my next opportunity. And it's probably not so much about the opportunity as about what goes on inside of me internally. Mm-hmm. But to have everything in service of, God, life is going to throw a lot of things at me, good things, bad things, surprises. How do I move through life with a measure of equanimity and contentment and joy? That's how I want to live my life. So mine is very qualitative in just how I want to experience life. Mm-hmm. It's too short. It's too short. So that's kind of my North Star. And I think about the decisions I make also have to do with that. A lot for me in this company that I've mentioned, blogs.io, their headquarters is in Tel Aviv. And what that for me also, I'm very curious. I love to learn. I like to be challenged. Let me tell you something. Working for an Israeli company in Tel Aviv, 10 hours ahead, 14 and a half hour flight. There's a lot, the Hebrew, they all speak Hebrew there. I don't speak Hebrew, just by the by. There's a lot about that is exciting. It's learning, it's different, and it's really enriching. So that was part of my criteria. And
well, I think as we relate this back to people listening is it's really important to identify what this, use the term the North Star. So people say, the one thing, the goal. It's important to know what that is. I mean, even though I was saying I'm still sort of working on it, at one level, I really know. I mean, it's for me more than anything. It's been on both sort of a personal, physical, and professional level. And again, mine's a little more has morphed as I've gotten older and has progressed through my own life and so on. I want to. You and I are both very physically active, running, biking, swimming, so on. And, very active with what we're doing professionally as well. And, I want to, and we're both healthy, but I want to be, as active in 20 years as I am today.
So again, that's a great North Star. And when you say active, and because I know you, you said it's physically active. It's also mentally active, like in all of the facets to be able to be active and engaged.
Right. I mean, I am like to think to some degree. So, at the top of my game professionally, published books. I've got books I still want to publish. Published well-received books. Yeah. I've got 3 or 4 next books already outlined. Right. So, for me, it's all about being able to maintain that level of, I said, physicality and mental acuity, and staying on top of, the physical, the health, the personal, as well as the professional, for an indefinite period of time. If I could be doing this, like I said, for 20 plus years, that'd be great.
Did you see, speaking of just physicality as you get older, did you read, I think it was in the New York Times in the last couple of days, this 100 and something,
yes,
110-year-old, was it 110?
I think 113 he claimed
was
to be.
Okay, 113, which they said is actually they don't believe him. But
no.
You know what? Give or take, let's say give or take 10, you're good.
Well,
let's say he's lying by 13.
Yeah, they're saying even if he's in his 90s, the fact he was running was great. But this is a gentleman that went to the World Senior Championships to compete in the 100, 200, and 400 meter races, claiming he's 113, which no one believes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that one is definitely hard to believe.
But even if he's 90,
even if he's 90. So there's hope for you, Andy. I think this is a good North Star.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to be able to North Star.
I'd like to be able to run more than 400 meters when I'm 90 years old, but we'll see. The way my hips feel today, probably be a new set of hips, but
that's right. Technology will help us.
Technology won't really be us quite a bit.
It won't be us that's running. We'll have all these electronic parts.
Well, the other thing, I was having this conversation with some friends over the weekend. My wife and I were in Seattle. She was at a conference and had met actually one of her nieces for dinner up there who works for Zulily. And but we were talking about future, and I was saying, one of the things I'm looking forward to is with these autonomous cars is somebody that rides bikes out on the streets with all these distracted drivers. Just think how great it will be, hopefully, with these autonomously driven cars, that, this is going to extend my bicycle career. Hopefully, the sooner they get those cars out on the road, the less nervous I'll be when I'm riding about somebody looking at their phone and plowing into the back of me.
Yeah, I used to bike quite a bit, and that is also one of the things that was a deterrent for me is, people get distracted, they don't see you. We're getting there. I think even if it's not just the autonomous cars that have the sensors in them already that, can know things that are around them. I think there's hope. Basically what I'm saying is, I think that you're in good shape.
Okay.
You've got a really good chance of being able to achieve that goal.
Well, that's my North Star. I don't look at things and, somebody asked me once about, we talked about retirement planning. I just think for so many people, and especially younger generations in the workforce, is, given the way we've seamlessly sort of integrated our work and our our personal lives is it stands to reason, especially as people will inevitably start living longer, as we already have, extended the lifespan here in the United States over the last century. It's been a huge, huge jump in life expectancy. It stands to reason that, as people are fitter and live longer, as they're not going to leave the workforce. They can't afford to because they're living longer. They're going to need to work, but also they don't want to.
Right.
So now I think what has to change is, if you're 20 years away from retirement, what's traditionally considered retirement, you really need to be thinking about, well, what do you want to do the next 40 years?
And you can change. You don't have to do the same thing. I mean, I think that's the other good thing is you may choose to do. Let's not talk about that right now. I think that's probably a good topic for us to skip.
I was just joking. But it does. Yeah, you can be.
I know.
You can be 70 years old and come up with a brand new life's ambition
with very little qualification. Okay, but let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. Well, that's right, and I think that's also a really exciting thing, is to think that you can have a whole new career. You can do something for 30 years and then have a whole new career. I don't intend to stop working anytime soon. There's so much richness in it. And, in fact, when I was in Tel Aviv this last time, God, I was walking back from the office and it was probably 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And we tend to work later there because we're offset from U.S. hours. And I was walking back thinking, I am so fortunate. I am so lucky that I have to work is a funny thing, but that I'm working and that I'm motivated to work, and that I didn't have some great windfall where I don't have any reason to work and I'm like at a golf course or something, as nice as that may sound to some. I just felt like I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity and that my life has guided me here, and that I'm in a place where I'm working. How lucky I am to be working. And I think, again, when we think about setting out goals for the new year, a reminder that it's also really a privilege to be able to work and be in roles where we're needed and where the job we do is important and where we're offering value to a company and to prospects and customers. I just think that's a real privilege that I'm really grateful for.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I saw something recently on a documentary or something about work, and the value of work. And, as you said, we're fortunate we're in a very creative, variable profession where we get exposed to lots of things, help lots of companies. But by the same token, not everybody has the same career path. But this documentary is saying is that, there's this whole segments of population. I was sort of talking about manufacturing in the United States. Is, how rewarding people felt the manufacturing jobs were.
Interesting.
Somebody that felt they were building something that, people could use to build something else, and that was just an incredible sense of satisfaction to them. And I think that, we just all need to sort of part of their why, right? Is we just, back to the beginning, we just sort of need to find out and determine what that is, because, there's value in everything that we do. It's just understand what that motivation is.
Yeah, I think that's right. Do you have any, when you think about, we've talked about the North Star, but any recommendations that you have for individuals, teams, either personal or professional, as they're looking forward? We talked last time about this reflective, looking backward, but looking forward, goals or plans. Like how would you recommend people think about that?
I do this, the why and the goal. Understand what that is for you first. I think for good sales managers, they want to know what that is for the people that work for them. They really you really need to understand what's driving and motivating your people on an individual basis. And so, both the individual needs to understand what that is and the manager needs to take the time to ask the questions, develop a relationship with the person to understand what that is, what motivates them, and then they can work together to achieve it. And I think that's what's really important for teams here at the beginning of the year. If you haven't done it in the past, invest the time as a manager to sit with your people, understand what this is. And, individuals, if you're just showing up for work day after day and you're just showing up, then, it may not be the right place for you because you really need to understand why you're there. What's getting you out of bed in the morning to come to this job? What do you hope to achieve, above and beyond, what's your New York Jets, if you will?
I love that. What's your New York Jets? That's a good one.
And if you can do that at the beginning of the year, then I think that's a great way to start. And then go crush it. What's your New York Jets? Yeah. All right.
That's going to be my line.
What's your New York Jets? Well, that's how we thank Chris Brogan and Gary Vaynerchuk for that. So, good. Well, Bridget, it's been a great way to kick off the year. And we're going to do this again. Probably roughly 52 times over the next year.
All right. Well, one down.
51 to go.
51 more. 51 to go.
And as always, we appreciate you all taking the time to listen to us. Do continue to send us questions as you get them. You can send them to Andy@zerotimeselling.com, and we will take some and answer them. And until next week, then. Bridget.
Right.
We'll talk to you then.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.